Yes, this should be interesting. Let's see. What do we want to do here? Okay, there it is, guys. Welcome to the stream. Hopefully everything is good and I don't have any audio issues. OBS has been kind of acting up on me lately, but tonight's stream is just going to be me relaxing and editing something that I've just recorded within the last hour or so. But I'm basically going to actually, before I do that, I have to record a few lines for a Simple History episode, some pickups for that. We're getting one out for Halloween. We're going to do that. But if anybody is watching, I don't know. Geez, I don't even think I have my dashboard on. Let's see if I can actually see. You guys have any questions about whatever the hell I'm doing? Knock yourself out in chat. I got chat open up over here. Okay. So basically, I'm going to go in and record my pickups first. This is Lizzie Borden. Shh, don't, it's top secret. Top secret information. Lizzie Borden. Oops. This is the third. No, this is the second pickup that I've had to do. This is a long episode. Lizzie Borden. All right, let me open up the script. And we're going to start recording. Okay. Lizzie's relationship with her stepmother, Abby, had deteriorated even further when she had found out that her father had bought several properties in secret. What distressed Lizzie was that the benefactor was her stepmother at the expense of herself and her sister, Emma. A house was even purchased for Sarah Gray Whitehead, Abby's younger half-sister. I think that's it. Oh, no, a couple more. The police did carry out a search of the house, but later admitted that it was only a cursory inspection and that they didn't carry out a thorough search until 2 days later on August 6th. And that's it. So that should be it. This is a really long script. Oh, another one. While another more tantalizing account was that, why is that bolded? While another more tantalizing account was that she suddenly and mysteriously came into a large amount of money and returned to Ireland, never to be heard of again. This would account for the fact that there was no bloody dress, and this would account for the fact that there was no bloody dress or that no killer was ever found. What's that? This is a 15-page script. It was a huge, this is huge. It was, I think the original file was 20 minutes long, something crazy like that, but it was interesting. It was interesting. Start. All right, so I'm just going to go through editing process. If anybody has any questions or whatever, just let me shout them out in chat and I'll see if I can answer. Lizzie's relationship with her. I'm not really going to narrate what I'm doing unless somebody actually wants to know. Step. Abby's younger half-sister. And that's it. So, oh, another one. While another would account for the fact that there was no bloody dress, and this would clear that up a little bit. Scrolling noises should be it. This is a 15-page. All right, I'm going to record some room tone. You know, I noticed my meter doesn't want to update. I think that's a glitch in Adobe Audition where the meter doesn't update. Yeah, see, it just gets stuck up there because my sound floor is a hell of a lot lower than that. Let's see. Yeah, even with a gate on, a very minimal gate, it's below negative 65 dB on the sound floor. One interesting tidbit that I love about this microphone. This, if you can see it at the bottom, you can see those pink lines. Those pink lines, at least that strong one. I'm going to zoom in. This strong line right here. That is the monitor speakers that are about maybe from the microphone. They're probably about 4 or 5 feet away and off to the left and right. That this microphone is so sensitive, it picks up the electrical hum in the speaker itself. So they're shielded, balanced cables, and for some reason, this microphone still picks it up. So that's why I capture a noise print at the end of a series of lines that I have to redo because it makes life a little easier down the road when I do a noise removal process. I think that's all the lines that I had. Good old Sunday night streams. What do we got? Uh-oh. Solitude is... Uh-oh, she's watching me. I got the stalker. The stalker is live. I should be more embarrassed, but I'm really not. All right, let's clean this up. Distressed Lizzie. First, we're going to do selection. What did I lose? Selection? Oh, right there. Oop. I'm going to do, usually I do about 2 or 3 seconds of silence in between each pickup. And let's get rid of this noise, and we'll go in and edit these pickups. And then I'll go in and edit the Greco-Italian War, Part 2. You've come to stalk. She has come to stalk me. Help. I need somebody from YouTube. I need an adult. What can we do there? We can get rid of, all right, so we removed noise floor, or we reduced background noise by about 15 dB. And now I got my macro set up. I just throw on a gate that gets rid of all background noise, basically brings it to silent without even affecting any of the, so anything below negative 70 dB, which is what the sound process will get rid of. It'll bring my noise floor from about negative 62 dB to negative 65 dB. It takes that once I've captured the sound sample of the background or the room tone, and it takes that and it reduces it down to roughly negative 74.3. And then I basically just eliminate anything that is lower than that into silence, complete silence. It gives good editing points for a lot of people that when they see a waveform, they don't want a lot of background noise. Like if I were just to add background noise, it's so quiet anyway. Some people like it to be removed. Some people don't. I personally love to have no background noise or no background hiss because it's voiceovers. There's already a background hiss there. All right, so that was the first step. Now I'm going to go through my macros. One's the gate, or I should say number 2 is the gate. Number 3 is my deplosive. Deplosive will get rid of, actually, let me cancel it. So down here, zoom in. So down here, see this little yellow spike right here? That is a plosive, and I don't even need to hear it. I just know that if we play this, the police did. I popped my P directly into my mic, which was bad mic technique. Since I don't use a pop filter, there's no need to. But the police, that's just bad technique. But a deplosive add-on will get rid of it completely or minimize it. I may have to adjust it a little bit, but. All right, so let me zoom out so you can see that plosive is still there, but pretty much got taken away. Lizzie's relationship with her. So let's go through and declick it. That's the mouth noise. Don't have too much mouth noise tonight, which is good because I've been drinking whiskey to clear it out. But yeah, you can definitely see some mouth noise was removed. Lizzie's relationship with her. Okay, so another macro. This applies one of my presets. This is a preset that I use specifically for Simple History, which throws on an effects rack and basically maximizes it, or I should say normalizes it to negative 3 dB. Right, gets everything nice and loud, nice and bright. And I basically will edit in here at this amplitude where nothing exceeds negative 3 dB. And then once I'm happy with the way it sounds in the cans, I apply one last loudness setting. And we'll Lizzie's relationship. So this is the boring part where I start going relationship with her clicks and pops and mouth noises and little sounds that sort of catch my ear. With her stepmother, Abby had deteriorated. And if you can't hear any of this stuff, it's because get better headphones. Or turn up your YouTube, because most of the stuff that you'll be like, why does this guy keep listening to the same half a second over and over again? It's because there's a mouth noise or some click or sound or little noise or something that I want to get rid of. And you might not be able to hear it without having a pretty decent, solid pair of headphones. Abby had deteriorated right in there. Deteriorated even further when she had found out that her father had bought several properties in secret. What distressed Lizzie was that the benefactor was her stepmother at the expense of herself and her sister Emma. A house was even so I'm going to do something I normally don't like to do, but I'm going to reduce some breath noise a little bit. A house was even purchased. So down here are some low uvular sounds. I shouldn't say uvular. They're really guttural throat sounds, almost like voice clicks, but down along the backsides of your tongue. Those can be a little distracting. Well, I'll put it this way. They're distracting to me. A house was even you can see them in the, it's tough to show you, but right here is one of them. When I get rid of it, you'll hear the difference. Get rid of it. And there's another one right here. A house was even purchased for Sarah Gray Whitehead, Abby's younger half-sister. It wasn't too bad, so I'm happy with that line. The police did poppin' Chris. Poppin' peas. Peter Piper picked a peck of pussies. The police did carry out So how are we going to fix this plosive? The police did carry out. There's two ways. The police. So it's an aggressive P, and you can see that in the waveform up top here. It's definitely a thick, loud amplitude on that. So what we're going to do is go right into that section, and I'm actually going to lower the amplitude of just those frequencies. The police did carry, which I'm going to, the police did carry out. There we go. The police did find a happy balance. I could record the line again, but I'm lazy and I don't want to do that. Did carry out a search of the house, but later admitted that it was only a cursory inspection and that they didn't carry inspection. And so there's a little bit, this is OCD at the highest level here. At the end of inspection, I have basically a tongue release where my tongue was up at the top of my roof of my mouth and it came off and it made a little click. And you can see that right here. This little thing is a mouth noise and I hate those. Inspection. I'm going to get rid of him. Inspection. And that they didn't carry out and then ends. Anytime I say the word or anything that begins with an N, I tend to get a nasally sound, a nasally pop. And that they didn't carry out. Oh, this one right here. And that they didn't carry out a thorough search until 2 days later on August. 2 days later. So L's are notorious for mouth noise, for me anyway. So 2 days later. So what I'm doing is I'm looking back and forth between the waveform at the bottom or the waveform at top and the spectral view at the bottom. Spectral view is where you want to edit audio. That's once you learn what sounds your mouth makes and what it looks like in the spectral view, you can just sometimes you don't even have to listen to the track. You can just say, oh, that's a trouble spot. But 2 days later, I can hear a very, very minor click. These two little things right down there, right in here. 2 days later on August 6th. And 6th, even though 6th is okay, on August 6th, I'm going to just fade that whole entire thing out. August 6th. So it's not as present. While another more tantalizing account was that she suddenly and mysteriously came into a large amount of money and returned to Ireland, never to be heard of again. It's almost a little vocal fry at the end of never to be heard of again. Yeah, we'll leave it in there. It's not too bad. Again. Yeah, that's a little better. This would account for the fact that there was no bloodied dress or that no killer was ever found. So these transients, these sharp transients, tend to reduce them in amplitude. No killer was ever found, or that no killer was ever found, or was ever found, or was something in there. Killer was no killer was ever found. That works. Okay. So I'm happy. I'm going to go through and listen to them all. And then that'll be that. Those pickups, we'll send that off to the main editor, and he'll basically include that because basically the script is done. I mean, the whole damn thing is done. These are the last edits hopefully the last edits of the Halloween episode. Lizzie's relationship with her stepmother, Abby, had deteriorated even further when she had found out that her father had bought several properties in secret. What distressed Lizzie was that the benefactor was her stepmother at the expense of herself and her sister Emma. A house was even purchased for Sarah Gray Whitehead, Abby's younger half-sister. The police did carry out a search of the house, but later admitted that it was only a cursory inspection, and that they didn't carry out a thorough search until 2 days later on August 6th. That's all right. While another more tantalizing account was that she suddenly and mysteriously came into a large amount of money and returned to Ireland, never to be heard of again. This would account for the fact that there was no bloodied dress or that no killer was ever found. I'm happy with all those. All right. So pickups number 2, we're done there. So the last step I do is basically it's a match loudness setting. There are these loudness or a way that YouTube will compress audio or seek to have a certain audio level. And I'm not going to bore everybody with the details, but they're called LUFs, basically a loudness unit, full scale. They do normalize down to negative 14 LUFs. So I automatically make my track exactly negative 14 LUFS with a max peak. I don't know if you guys can see it, but a max peak level of negative 1 dB. So that way there's a little bit of headroom when I send it off to the editor. He's fine with having negative 1. He's fine with only having 1 decibel of headroom. Depending on the client, you might want 3 or 6 dB of headroom, but with voiceovers, it's a lot different than sending out music tracks. Pretty much I'm mixing and editing and adding all the processing right here, so I have to produce a final loudness. So that's basically what that is. Once I have my settings in there, I just take the track, I pop it in there, and I run it. And you'll see on screen, everything gets louder. Everything gets louder. Keeps the dynamic range and makes, breaths a little bit louder sometimes, but that's fine. Lizzie's relationship with her stepmother, Abby, had deteriorated even further when she had found out that her father had bought several properties in secret. After that stage, I save the track. That's it. I save it as whatever I want to save. And then the most critical thing that I'm trying to teach myself this year, I am trying to force myself to use metadata on all of my tracks. I just need to get in the habit of adding metadata into everything, which is basically the track name, the artist, the script, when it was recorded, all of that fun stuff. And I'm actually going to save this I save it as a WAV, and then I save it as an MP3, because pickups, I don't even bother saving a raw, clean file. I just mash it all together and send it out. All right, so we're going to convert that over to an MP3. And metadata, I'm going to add, you can't see the metadata because it's underneath my webcam image on the stream. Loves details. How do you do voiceovers with Simple History? Do you guys like Meetup or something? No, it's all online. So, like, for example, I'm doing a Simple History. These lines that I'm doing here that you see on screen, these are all pickup lines for an episode that's coming out. It should be out. Oh, he's almost done with it. I think Tuesday, or at least by Tuesday, I think he plans on doing it. But this is a Halloween episode from or about Lizzie Borden. And she was a famous, she was an infamous supposed murderer in Massachusetts in the late 1800s, I believe, or I think it was the 1800s. But I get the script sent over to me, and I will edit the script for tone and delivery and what I think and what emotions might be called for. I don't edit for grammar. Well, sometimes I do, just because words like contractions, like if I have a writer or one of the writers might not like to use contractions, if I say they are or we can't or do not, it just sounds weird. So I edit those scripts for how it might sound so it's natural sounding. That's the only editing I do, but it's all remote. So I get a finalized script, or hopefully it's final. Usually we have pickups, like we have to fact check so much. I don't envy Daniel Turner. He's the main creator of Simple History. I don't edit how much he has to fact check these kinds of episodes where you have so much up in the air when it comes to what we're writing. So if we say something, it needs to be accurate, because the whole idea of Simple History is to have an animated show that teaches history in a simple way that's historically accurate, that the costumes and the weapons and vehicles and everything that you see on screen, although simple looking and kind of, plain looking animation, is accurate. So that's the whole idea. So my challenge, my accuracy challenge with Simple History really only comes down to pronunciations. That's where I have to make sure that pronunciations are accurate. And it depends on, it is an American audience that we have primarily. I mean, it's a worldwide audience, but 9 times out of 10, I'll go with an American pronunciation. But for episodes like one of the Vietnam pronunciations, very challenging to try to get them to sound American, or at least legible or intelligible. Those are a big challenge, but that's one of my my duties when it comes to looking at a script. How do you pronounce certain things? And sometimes it's just looking it up on YouTube. Sometimes it's going to Google Translate and seeing what they come up with, or reaching out to, I have a lot of contacts that I've worked with all over the world, different countries, and I'll reach out to them. Hey, could you verify a pronunciation of a certain word? I had to do that with a few Greek pronunciations. I even had to do that with a few Chinese pronunciations. They can be a little tricky to do that. But all right, so we basically have a finished track. So I'm going to send this off. We're going to go into this one here. I'm going to zoom out. This is a raw track. I just recorded it before I went live. You guys will see my editing process. This is going to be real boring, but it's my editing process when it comes to, I don't want to say mixing, because it's not really mixing, but editing a voiceover for noise, for clicks, for tempo, for pacing. So we're going to do that. I'm going to send this, actually take a small break. I'm going to send this over to Dan, and we'll be good. Yes. Sending emails live. It's very exciting. Lizzie Borden. Pickups. I need freaking more hard drives on my server. What do I have? 12 terabytes of space. I'm already at 10 terabytes of voiceover shit. And that's the physical location. I have all it backed up online too, but I gotta get a new hard drive so I can actually feel like if something blows up, I won't have a problem. You know, I had pickups too. Where the hell did it go? There it is. All right. All right, so I'm going to send that off. And, okay. All right, so I'll close that. Check chat. You type fast and satisfying. Well, that's good. It's because of mechanical keyboard. Clips Films Melbourne. Hey, man, what's up? I haven't seen you in a while. It's because I haven't streamed. Let me move this crap out of here. We're all good here. All right. I'm going to go kind of quick on this. But you guys will hear a lot of strange noises like that. After the successful outcome of thought that the General Papagos, the Commander-in-Chief, General Papagos, General Papagos, postpone the events of the Commander-in-Chief, General Papagos, thought that the plans were to the Third Corps. The Commander postpone the offense dishes for the moment and postpone the offensive for November. November 14th. The Italian forces had been reorganized. Everybody want to hear me clear my throat? It's always fun. The Greek order of battle consisted. The main objective. Clear your throat. And potentially the chance to encircle any Italian units and potentially the chance. If anybody wants to know, yeah, you can see my those little clear your throat. These little spikes in the waveform. That is my dog clicker. That just gives me a visible spike on the waveform, so I know that whatever's preceding that spike, that this section right here, is a mistake. There's a mistake, or I didn't say something, or it sounded weird, or it was inflected wrong. So I know that this To the right of it is the correct take. So if what I'll do is I'll go in and I'll go strategically. I'll check just to make sure that's exactly the first word in the next take, and I'll just delete. That's all I'm doing. 14th Infantry Division on November 14th. And sometimes I delete breaths, sometimes I leave them in. In this particular case, on November 7th, the producer doesn't mind the breath noises too much. On November 17th, I gotta do what I gotta do over here. Which was ordered to attack. The attack of the 13th. And normally I don't do this while I'm in this phase. This is the editing phase. I'll notice spikes like this, which are usually transients, like K's or C's. And I actually get rid of them. During the Greek counteroffensive. The counteroffensive, sometimes a little saliva will get in there, and I got to take care of that. As the regiment of the division was waiting for the signal to attack, it was suddenly ordered to relocate. Two of its battalions got pinned down. The regiment accidentally made two of its battalions got pinned down by machine, while the other two battalions were attacked. On the same day, the 13th, commanded by Lieutenant General George Cosmas, commanded by Lieutenant General George Cosmas. That Cosmas, I'm not 100% convinced that's the correct pronunciation, because the only source I have for that name is something on YouTube, which is very difficult to even hear. So I know when I send this file over, that may be something that the producer says, hey, this is a weird pronunciation. So what I do actually is I mark that section. So you can see up here, this little marker section. I mark it so I know that there is a potential pronunciation issue with a certain area of a track. So when he says, hey, yeah, record that, it's not Cosmos, it's Cosmopolitan or something silly, I can just go back and find it immediately. Captured Korcha. If you accidentally remove something, is there an undo button like in documents? Absolutely, 100%. So I recently used a macro pad for when I edit, but I'm now using just, I have a DOS keyboard, mechanical keyboard, and that's where you can probably hear it clicking all day long. I'm on WASD like a gamer, basically, because I'm a nerd. And I have all of my shortcuts mapped to different keystrokes when you're in home position on WASD. And E is my undo key. Like, you can do Control Z, Control X, that sort of thing to undo, but I've moved them. But absolutely, if I take this whole thing and I accidentally delete it, whoops, you undo and it saves everything. It took in fact, actually, it saves the entire history of your deletes. So if I delete 100 things, I can go back 100 different places to get all the way back there. So it's basically non-destructive. It took the Greeks two more days of intense fighting to capture the mountains in front of Korcha, fearing that that's another tough one. Korcha, Korce in Albania. Korcha or Korka. I've heard two different pronunciations, and that may be another one of them. Now the Greeks could either continue the capture of this port with duress. Duress, that's another pronunciation. Italian. Do I want to pronounce it like an Italian pronouncing an Albanian word, or carry out smaller attacks to allow the rest of despite the atrocious weather and heavy? Both formations moved into Oops. So there's starting a camp. Both formations. There we go. I got to delete that whole thing. Both formations moved into Albania on November 24th, starting a campaign that didn't stop until the end of the year, despite the atrocious weather and heavy snowfall. 8th Division, together with the 8th Division, the Greek advance slow. The 8th Division. I'll leave that breath in there for that. The 8th, earning the respect anyone ever expected, earning the respect of all of Europe. After 2 months, the Greeks had accomplished more than anyone ever expected, earning the respect of all of Europe. But now the worst. That's yeah. So I try not to think about tempo. At this stage, right now, I'm just going through and editing down the track. But there are some times when I'll see an edit and I correct for tempo. This decision took effect on. This decision took effect on. Like that. This decision. It's like my voice doesn't want to say this decision. Even I can't even say it live. This decision. I think it's my Rhode Island accent. This decision over here. This decision took effect on January 6th, which marks the end of the Greek counteroffensive in Albania. Klissura. The most significant of those was at the Klissura Pass, where both sides suffered heavy casualties after a series of Prime Minister Metaxas proposed a joint offensive. The British rejected. Oh, I'm getting noises. I'm getting email notifications. Oh, yep, goes. So he accepted the pickups. And he's, what time is it in London? It's probably like 1 a.m. in London because that's where he's at. And I'm sure he's going to want to go to sleep. The Germans decided when the Germans decided to the need to transfer troops back to the Metaxas. Now the who were building up their one more offensive on the center of the front, Italians who were building up the start. All right, so that's it. So we're pretty good. So I've edited everything in this voiceover, and when I zoom out full, I like to do an overview. So I'll go through now that I've basically removed every mistake, or 99% of all the mistakes. I go through and I save a copy of this as what we'll just call a raw voiceover track. This is no processing, no nothing other than some channel strips that I have in front of me, which do a little bit of gating and a little bit of compression, like a minor compression. But other than that, this is a raw file. So let me save that over to where it needs to go. And this is, what was this? The Greco-Italian War. Part 2. Part 1 was actually, that was a while ago, I think. Okay. Boom. So now I have a complete copy of the raw file in case I ever have to go back and let's say I remaster or something. I have a completely fresh copy of this track, even with room tone and everything. So now what we're going to do is the editing process. First things first. Oh yeah, I'll zoom out full, and I'll look for spikes. So I will look for these things here. So that little spike there, there's a spike there, maybe this one. Those are 9 times out of 10, they're transients, like the K or a C or T, and I just reduce them in amplitude. That's really all I'm doing. Start a general counter-offensive. Yeah, counter. So I'll sometimes... General headquarters decided to take the initiative and start a general counteroffensive. So it softens it up a little bit. Sometimes you use an auto heal function. Sometimes you use a fade in function. Sometimes you use an amplitude reduction for a counter. In this case, I'm going to use a fade in function. And for a counter, because sometimes you want a transient to have that impact. Attack. You want the aggressive sound of the transient to come through and not be diminished. So it depends on the script. It depends on a whole number of things. But if you have a high energy script, you leave your transients nice and sharp. It's just true to the performance, true to the person who who has recorded the audio. Starting a campaign that the campaign is a little weak, but I'm going to do this. Starting a campaign that didn't stop until the end of the year. All right, that's good. There's a few other transients in there, but I'll leave them. Also captured 2,000 prisoners. So that's the first thing I do. That's the first step. After you clean up for editing, now I'm going to go in and capture a noise sample. So this is RX7 voice denoise. This just basically scans this highlighted section and gives me an EQ wave of all those frequencies in here. And most of them are pretty low. You can see down here, what is that, -70 dB. So that's pretty much what it wants to remove, these low frequencies below 100 hertz, which are my speakers, like I talked about before. And we're going to remove that by 8 decibels. So I'm going to lower that down by 8 decibels. So this background noise, which I love this part. Let me do this. So I just normalized my room tone up to 0.1 dB. And I'm going to play it, and you guys are going to hear what it sounds like when my room tone is completely amplified. Listen to how low this is. So I know it sounds hissy, but in the back there, these yellow streaks down at the bottom, that's all speakers. That's speaker hum. So I get rid of it, or I reduce it. So let me do this. And we'll apply that. We'll apply that noise pattern to the entire track. And that will get rid of it. Or not get rid of it. It'll minimize it. Oh, and this is the best time. This is when you grab a drink, because 9 times out of 10, you have to wait 30 seconds for your process to go through, because this is what chews up your CPU on your computer. And this is bad for your voice. Don't drink soda. Don't drink soda or Pepsi. So it reduced the overall amplitude of the background noise. So now I can get rid of it in one fell swoop. I use what's called a gate, or a noise gate. That basically says any signal, any audio signal that comes in that's lower than a certain threshold, remove it or reduce it by a certain number of decibels. What I like to do is remove everything below negative 75 dB, which is what this stuff is. Actually, let's do a little experiment. Let's see. So I'm going to highlight just my room tone, and I'm going to go over here to amplitude statistics. And I'm going to scan what I just selected, and we're going to see. So my room tone, my peak amplitude is negative 67 dB, which is it's quiet, basically. It's ultra quiet. And my total RMS right here, negative 80. So already, if I were to leave this room tone in, it really wouldn't do anything. You wouldn't probably hear it. But it does color the audio a little bit after I put in some effects. So EQ and some compression and things like that. So it does color it later on, but that's why I like to remove it. So we're just going to press my button. You'll see it all goes away. Boom. So now it's pitch black there, which means there's no signal there. It reduced it basically to infinite. You will not be able to hear anything, even if I normalize this section. There's nothing there to normalize. There's no signal. So, but it still leaves the overall voice intact, which is good because it gets rid of some of the frequencies up in the S frequencies, plus 4K, maybe to up near 8 or 9K. It'll get rid of some of those. So that's the second step. Third step is deplosive, depop, in case my stupid head was looking at the microphone, which is possible. I don't see a ton. My eyes are looking down here at this bottom section to see if there are any bright yellow marks, like right over here. There is a bright mark. And that could be a plosive, but yeah, there's nothing there. So I'm going to hit that process. This one's going to take, let's see, a minute. So this one's going to take a minute. So I'll just yammer on and on about stuff. If you keep your eyes on that bottom section, very, very bottom section of that spectral view. When this process is done, when it's done counting down, you'll see the very bottom of the waveform, or the bottom of the spectral view. You'll see it be reduced in brightness, meaning it won't be as purple or yellow as it is now. It'll go almost dark purple, which means they're reducing any of those really low popping frequencies, which they all live down below 70 hertz. There it goes. So it's nice and clean down there. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can show you. So down here, these frequencies down here, this is all below 100 hertz pretty much. So right there. So all these bands, it's all homogeneous. There's no giant, bright yellow areas. If I were to do something like this and make them all bright yellow, that would be absolutely terrible to listen to. but that's the next step. The next step in the chain is removing the pops, removing the annoying stuff in my voice, which there's a lot. And then really the next phase is mouth declick, getting rid of wet sounding noises in my mouth. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to highlight this first section. We're going to listen to it normally. And then we're going to output just the clicks so you can hear what that actually sounds like. Because when you're listening to this, remove that. After the successful outcome of the Greek defense during the first 12 days of the war, the Greek general headquarters decided to take the initiative and start a general counteroffensive. There's no annoying stuff in Chris K. There is a lot of annoying stuff in there. It's because I know how to hide it really well or make it sound like something else. But I'm gonna show you. So in that little first section, that first line, there's a lot of mouth noise because I know what I just ate and what coffee I had right before I recorded this thing. So there's definitely some things I want to get rid of in there. So I'm going to show you what it actually looks like. You can't see it in the spectral or waveform unless you have your eyes trained for it. But I'm going to outclick just those clicks from this one section. You're going to see what I'm talking about. So all of these little bands of color, these little noises, that's all mouth noise. And this program actually removes mouth noise better than anything I've ever heard or seen ever. It's nearly perfect. So if you have a problem with mouth noise or clicks, or you can't really, or let's say, because I'm missing a tooth in the back of my head, that sometimes will click, like my tongue will go up near there and it'll click and I can't stop it. So I can't get rid of it with technique. I can try, but it's tough to. So this program is fantastic. And one of my friends absolutely hates when I do this, but I'm going to normalize that so you can actually hear what it sounds like. And it's just disgusting. So here, I'm going to play this. So if anybody has headphones on, they just heard every bit of mouth noise during that entire first sentence. So that's the whole entire track is like that. So that program, or that little add-on, that little effect, gets rid of it. So this one's going to take a few minutes. So I'm going to let it do its thing. And we're going to go see what we got in comments. Yes, I know. Isn't that disgusting? Listening to mouth. It's like I'm sucking on a lollipop or something while I'm reading. It's nasty. Mouth noise has been the bane of my existence as a voice actor for a long time, because unless you just drink water all day long and know how to control it, which I don't, it's there. Little clicks and noises that you don't want. They're just intrusive when it comes to creating a relaxing sounding voice, at least for me. Some people don't want relaxing. I do. Send that to you later. Yeah. Oh, see, now I just made that mistake. Okay, so I forgot to uncheck. So the entire track, oh, damn it. I got to go through that whole process again. So this is the entire track. This is how much mouth noise is in the entire track. Pretty much. And it's disgusting. I'm not sending that to anybody. Really? Come on. So let me undo that. See, this is why undo is so good. And I forgot to uncheck this box here. Output clicks. So I'm going to do that again. And now I can pontificate again for the next 1 minute. Anything good? No. I think somebody should be playing EverQuest 2 instead of watching some idiot on YouTube stream about Adobe Audition. Just a thought. Just a thought. God, this process is long. This is when I keep wanting to update my, or upgrade my CPU. I think I have like an 8-core CPU. I got to buy like a 16-core something or other, just to be able to chew through this processing stuff a little faster, because it is kind of slow, but it's worth it. Whatever. All right, so now I have a clean track, and I call clean tracks that have been dealt with noise, dealt with plosives, dealt with clicks, and dealt with any other random breaths or, scroll noises or keyboard noises or whatever. So now I have a clean track. I actually save, this is sort of my second step. Oops, not lean, clean. A clean track. I gotta go back and change my folder. Simple history. Okay, so now I have a clean track. And basically, I'm going to remove that silence at the end. And now I'm going to hit a button, and we're going to sit here and do that again for 1.5 minutes. This applies a rack preset. So I just hit my number 5 key there. That applies an effects rack, which consists primarily of a compressor, or I should say a de-esser, something that gets rid of the sibilant kind of sounds. That's the first one. I reduce those frequencies. Then there is a equalizer, pretty much the only thing that it eliminates is something called a standing wave. So my situation in this studio is there's a standing or a wave, an audio wave. So when I say something, or a deep bassy blah, that bass frequency sort of travels up and down from the floor to the ceiling, and it can create a bit of distortion in some words that I say. So I do bring that down. It lives right around 220 to 250 hertz, and I pull that down maybe a few dB in amplitude, so it's a little less. Basically, it makes it sound a little boxy. So I like to remove that so it doesn't sound as boxy. And then after the EQ, what do I have? I have a multi-band compressor, which compresses everything, so it gets rid of some of the spikes, but leaves a lot of dynamic. It's a very light compressor, so you can see there's still a lot of dynamic range here, and that just simply means the dynamic range just means from the highest peak to the lowest peak. What's the difference? What's the range? It's basically the delta change in amplitude. So I reduce some of the peaks and I increase some of the lows, so everything has a little bit more even tone. And that is normalized to -3. And then after I apply that effects rack, the macro that I set up applies the effect rack and then normalizes it to -3 decibels, which is standard. That's my standard volume that I like to listen to. And then really my next step is checking my headphone levels on my interface in front of me and making sure it's at my standard. Basically, I keep it at 50%. I keep it at a 50% volume or mix level. So I always edit and mix at the exact same level every single time as I hit the microphone. So that way I get a consistent sound. Army section. And then we're going to go through and we're going to listen to this whole damn thing. So sit back and relax because this is going to be boring. After the successful outcome of the Greek defense during the first 12 days of the war, the Greek general headquarters decided to take the initiative and start a general counteroffensive. The Third Corps had already submitted plans for a counteroffensive on November 6th. The commander-in-chief, so I'm going to get rid of that breath. And there is no answer, at least there is no formula that I have set up to get rid of breaths. I don't like to get rid of breaths, but sometimes when it's a establishing fact, where within the first paragraph of the voiceover, I will either eliminate certain breaths or I'll reduce them in amplitude, simply because we're establishing what we're about to talk about. And breaths can sometimes be distracting. Not too bad, but sometimes they can be a little distracting. Sometimes. The Third Corps had already submitted plans for a counteroffensive on November 6th. The commander-in-chief, General Papagos, thought that the plans were too ambitious for the moment and postponed the offensive. So that's a little bit of a edit I'm going to do there. I remove the delay in between and ambitious for the moment and postpone the offensive for November 14th. The Italian forces had, so I'm going to remove that gap. The Italian forces had been reorganized. So we got a little low, had been reorganized. Low mouth noise. I don't know if you guys can even see that, but my eyes are so used to seeing it. There's a little, let me get the little lasso tool. So there's a little thing right inside there. It's a little noise. Had been real. That is a guttural, or I think it's a guttural, but it's basically when the underside of your tongue touches down way in the back when you talk as deep as I do. It touches way back there, and it sometimes can pop or click. And the click process that I do does not remove the lower one, so I go in and manually do it. And you can even see it on the waveform. It's this section right up in here. So if I auto heal that, it gets rid of it. Had been reorganized into 2 armies. The 9th Army formed out of the 26th. 9th Army formed out of the. And there's a few. And this is formed out. What level do you want to clean it? 9th Army formed out of the 26th Corps. Depends on how much money you get paid, really. Formed out of the 26th Corps. 26th Corps with 4 infantry infantry divisions and 2 Alpine divisions, and the 11th Army formed out of the 25th Corps with 3 infantry divisions. So there's a big gap there. That was my and the 11th. I was probably trying to catch a breath and Corps with 3. Yeah. So we'll get rid of that. We'll try to make it sound like an actual sentence. And the 11th Army formed out of the 25th Corps with 3 infantry divisions. And the 11th Army formed out of the 25th Corps with 3 infantry divisions, 1 armored division, and the remnants of the cavalry. And the remnants. So this one's much more obvious. This line right here. That was a terrible. Okay, I'm going to try to highlight it right there, right in there. This. Actually, you know what? I'll just get the right marquee. So this right here, that is a low frequency mouth noise. And I'm just going to auto heal it out of there. And the remnants of the cavalry division. And the remnants of the cavalry division. Sometimes you can use it in there if you're up close on the mic, but cavalry division. I don't like to usually. The Greek order of battle consists consisted of the first corps on the coastal sector, and the Western Macedonia Army section with the 2nd Corps in the Pindus sector. There's a little bit of a plosive that's hard for me, so I'm going to reduce that little area down there in the Pindus sector. That works. This sector, and the 3rd Corps in Western Macedonia. The main objective for the 3rd Corps. So here's a secret trick. That breath, very short, was almost just sort of like quick breath. I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to insert another breath. I'm just going to copy paste a breath from somewhere else that's a little bit less sharp. The main objective for the 3rd Corps was at Korcha. Capture of this town and the plateau would give the Greeks swift access to the interior of Albania, and potentially the chance to encircle any Italian units on the left flank of the 3rd Corps. So a little bit of a little twang. It's on the left flank of the 3rd Corps. So sometimes when I end sentences, some people will do vocal fry. I actually try to go down in pitch. And sometimes my vocal cords will get hung up. And what you see there at this giant spike right here is a almost a voice change, a register going from a head voice, almost like a mix sound, to a chesty, deeper chest voice. And it will catch as I'm kind of sliding down. It catches, and we'll do that from time to time. And I unfortunately, I don't have any training in that aspect. So when I slide down from head or voice down into the chest at the end of a sentence, it gets caught, and that's what happens. 3rd Corps of the 3rd Corps. You can hear it. It's almost like it gets caught up. Do I remember how many big groups have hired me? It depends on what your definition of big is, but I have, I don't even know, hundreds of clients. So if you said as big as Simple History, not many. There's a few companies that I deal with e-learning, which is just a totally different format that I can't show you because it's all proprietary. But I would say a dozen clients that are I would consider large, and then hundreds of other ones that would be medium, and then really just too many to count with smaller people, that individual voice projects that somebody wants me to voice, or something that they want. They just say, oh, I like your voice, man. You got to record this. There's tons and tons of those jobs. Core. I'm going to get rid of that real quick. The third core. That's a little better. I'm going to go actually manually get rid of that. Third core. Better. Circle any Italian units on the left flank of the third core. You need to see more of my, you need to see more. That's what I'm working at. That's what I'm working. A lot of my work is, it's all over the place, really. I do a lot of work in China, or the Chinese market. There's also a lot of, which is weird to me, a lot of Middle Eastern stuff. I have a lot of clients that think I have the voice that sounds American. Well, which it does, but like there's like a quintessential American sound to my voice, which is good, but it's just weird that somebody from, I think it's, where is it? I have one client in Jerusalem, which is just weird to say out loud. I have a client in Jerusalem that does audio tours for archaeological sites. So if you walk through, it's like an audio, like a guided tour. So if you ever go to Jerusalem, I think it's Jerusalem, and you're looking around for ancient, Muslims type sites or Judeo-Christian type sites, and you follow an audio tour, you might hear my voice, which is just weird. It's fun, but it's just weird. First rank of the third corps. First and second corps would push forward to evict the Italian forces from Greek territory. Strategically speaking, the Greeks need a little bit of a mouth noise. Strategically speaking, the Greeks needed a decisive victory that would compel Italy to and there's a click in there. I can barely hear it. So you guys are probably not going to hear this click because I can barely hear it. These are freaking headphones that are supposed to give me everything. Victory that would compel. Yeah, it's in there. This is a very high click, but this is when I start, instead of looking at the waveform or the spectral view, I look for the waveform, and I think I see him in there. That would compel. Right in here. Compel it. Compel it. Got him. That's the L. That's the L sound. L always gives clicks. What program? This is Adobe Audition CC 2019. It's the Adobe Creative Suite, which I haven't always used this program. This is something that I've been using for the last 5 years doing this. I started with Audacity, which it's freaking brilliant, and it's free. So kind of win-win there. But Audition, much more powerful. When you get to a certain level where you understand a lot of the crap that I've been just talking about over the last hour about compression and how to manipulate a waveform, the tools that Adobe Audition offers are much more powerful than Audacity. But there's a lot of different. This is called a digital audio workstation. It's called a DAW, D-A-W for short. And there are many different types of digital audio workstations. I just prefer Adobe Audition simply because they have a thing called Dynamic Link, and I have Adobe Premiere and After Effects and Illustrator and Photoshop. So if I'm putting together a movie in Premiere Pro and the audio needs to be edited, I just bring it right over to Adobe Audition, edit it, and then it's completely saved in Premiere Pro real time, so I don't have to do anything. Same thing with Character Animator for Simple History. If you're not using Creative Cloud, if you're a creative person, at least with audio or video or special effects, even After Effects, your workflow isn't optimized, to put it that way. If you're using something else, your workflow is probably a little slow, a little clunky. You can tell I'm fast. You use Audacity in movies and things to get the job done? It definitely does. Professional voice actor definitely depends on more powerful programs. Yeah, there's, what is that? Pro Tools. Pro Tools is another hugely powerful one. I don't like Macs or Apples, so I don't use it. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. And for music and voiceovers, Pro Tools is fantastic. I will say this. I think since I'm a voice actor, editing in Adobe Audition for voiceovers way better than Pro Tools. There's something about I don't know what it is. I don't know how to describe it. The format, what I actually see, what I can configure, certain options that I can set, certain shortcuts. They're all good. They're both good. I just prefer Adobe Audition. Strategically speaking, the Greeks needed a decisive victory that would compel Italy to negotiate a ceasefire or truce. On November 14th, the 3rd Corps attacked with the 9th, 10th, and 15th Divisions. Get rid of that breath. The Italians were taken by surprise because the attack was not preceded by an artillery barrage. By November 16th, artillery barrage. By November 6th, this is one of those editing decisions. By November 16th, the Greeks, November 16th, the Greeks had breached the Italian line and captured many of the small villages. So there's some interesting, by November 16th, interesting frequencies in there that, by November 16th, unless you're used to listening to my voice as much as I do, you won't pick up on it, but I can hear by November 16th. So I have a cup. There's a glass cup over on the left side of my desk. It's been sitting there for about 2 days. There's nothing in it, but if I was going to be a professional, I'm not a professional. Come on, I'm an amateur. If I was a professional, I would get that glass cup off of there because it does one thing. So I have a low voice, and when I really hit those low notes, that cup was resonating, and I can hear it in this audio track. By November 16th, so it's over here in this section where you see this big bright section. November 16th. By November 16th, there's a frequency band in here, which I don't know if you can see it. See these little bands, these little thin bands that kind of go across here. By November 6th, that's it. By November 16th, so I'm not going to get rid of it because nobody is going to hear that. I mean, unless you remember this and then you go and watch the actual Simple History episode, and then you'll hear it. But it's going to be covered up by background music and sound effects, so nobody will ever notice it. But that's the sort of thing that I love, that stuff that you can train your ears to hear. By November 16th, the Greeks had breached different resonances in the space that's around your face. The Italian line and captured many of the small villages in the mountains. On November 17th, the 3rd Corps. The 3rd Corps was. A little bit of a noise in there. 3rd Corps was reinforced by the. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with me. It's been fun. I'm getting towards the end of it here. I'm probably another 30 minutes or so before I log this thing off, but we'll keep going. On November 17th, the 3rd. On November 17th, the 17th. No, that wasn't it. 17th, the 3rd Corps was reinforced by the 13th. Boy, I got a lot of noise in this section here. Reinforced by the 13th Division. And if anybody asks me, 13th Division, well, how come you don't use that D-click on all those low frequencies? So if I bring that up, you can see I can change the slider down here from high frequencies to low frequency priority, like how it shifts what it's looking for. And those clicks are so low that it's so low that this thing will not pick them up. It won't go that low. So that's one limitation with that particular plugin. I'm sure I could probably tweak it a little bit to get me closer, but You don't want to do that too many times because it starts to introduce artifacts in the sound. Corps was reinforced by the 13th Division, which was ordered to attack the next day between the 9th and the 15th Divisions. The attack of the 13th Division was the only one. Of the 13th Division was it's a really wet sound. 13th Division was the. Oh, you know what? That's another. If you guys can see this, see these little spikes up here on the waveform. That it's indicative. It's a visual indicator for me because I actually looking at the waveform, constantly going back between the waveform and the spectral view. 13th Division and F, the F sound, and the TH sound, 13, like I said, 13 there. 13th Division was, and the 10th, the end of 13th. Sometimes you'll get almost a whistle tone. So might actually sound like a little whistle. I don't have it tonight because actually tried to take care of my voice tonight, but sometimes you'll get a very weird sounding whistle tone. And it shows up like little spikes like that. So when I see those, I just throw in I just silence them. You'll never hear it. 13th Division was the 13th, and I can hear it in here. These little spikes. I just silence. I just put silence right there, so you have nothing. The 13th Division was the only. Your brain will hear it, and the only thing you'll register is just, oh, that's a little sharp. That's a little. Ooh, that sounds a little weird. You won't say it sounds bad, but you'll say, ooh, it's a little sharp. And that's why people say, oh, he's relaxing. Chris has a relaxing voice. It's because I take the time to go in and remove those sharp sounds for when I want the sound to be relaxing. The attack of the sometimes when you don't want it to be relaxing, you'll leave them in there. So it's just like high energy. It doesn't matter what the hell's coming out of your face as long as it's high energy, and you leave that stuff in there. The attack of the 13th Division was the only one that failed during the Greek counteroffensive. As the chosen regiment of the division was waiting for the signal to attack under cover of a few problems there. Under cover of darkness. Cover is a little sharp there. I'm going to just fade that. Under cover of darkness and heavy rain, it was suddenly ordered. I'm going to do this. Reduce the amplitude of that breath. It was suddenly ordered to relocate and change the. So relocate. It was almost a plosive. Ordered to relocate. And I'm going to reduce that. Relocate and change the direction of the attack. The regiment accidentally made. So, the regiment accidentally made contact with the enemy. 2 of its battalions got pinned down by machine gun fire, while the other two battalions were attacked by Italian bombers and then retreated. The commander of the 13th Division was fired on the spot. A little breath after spot, but I'll leave it in there. Fired on the spot. The spot. I don't know what the hell I was thinking when I did that. It was fired on the spot. And I don't know why I did that, but it jumps out at me as a little annoying, so I'm going to actually just reduce it in amplitude. Spot. And the arrival of not as noticeable. The 11th Division on November 19th restored the front. On the same day, the 13th, 11th, and 10th Divisions were combined into a group of divisions that was named the K Group. So I'm going to do something I usually don't do. Named the K Group. I don't know if you can see, the dynamic range starts to fall off here in this section. So what I'm going to do is actually amplify this K Group. I want K Group to be a little bit more enunciated, or I should say louder, because it is an important thing for this script. So I'm going to bring it up maybe a little bit of a few decibels. That was named the K Group. Were combined into a group of divisions that was named the K Group. That's better. That way, people will hear K Group because we talk about it later again, so they usually know what the hell I'm talking about. Commanded by Lieutenant General George Cosmas. K Group. Commanded by Lieutenant General George Cosmas. It took the Greeks 2 more days of intense fighting to capture the mountains in front of Korcha. Fearing that they would be surrounded, the Italians began to retreat as the Greek 9th Division, good old ends, as the Greek 9th Division pressed the attack and captured Korcha on November 22nd. So that was a weird tempo. I'm going to The Italians began to retreat as the Greek 9th Division pressed the attack and captured. Yeah, the and captured should be a little closer. Pressed the attack and captured Korcha on November 22nd. On November 22nd. The Greeks also captured 2,000 prisoners. 100 captured 2,000 prisoners. Definitely visible here. You can see that little noise right there. Prisoners. 135 field guns and 600 machine guns. Field guns and 600 machine guns. The capture of Korcha on November 22nd. The Greeks also captured 2,000 prisoners, 135 field guns, and 600 machine guns. The capture of Korcha within a month since the outbreak of the war increased the morale of the army and the people. Little noises. And the people. Increased the morale of the army and the people. So I got some strange artifacts there. People. And the people. So that's in this. There's a plosive down here that I'm going to actually reduce by quite a bit, about maybe 12 decibels. And then the end of that syllable, I'm going to fade that out a little bit. So it's a little of the army and the people. A little less. Most of the surviving elements of the 9th Army were able to escape as the Greeks were poorly motorized and couldn't give chase. By November 27th, the entire plateau was under Greek control. So same thing. Control. So far, the casualties of the 3rd Corps were 624 dead and 2,348 wounded. So that's 2,348. Two things. 348 wounded. 348 wounded. Now the Greeks could either continue the offensive in the direction of Elbasan, or shift the focus to the left flank and drive towards the port of Vlora. The general headquarters chose Vlora as the next objective. Capture of this port would leave the Italians only with the port at Durrës and deteriorate the Italian supply situation even more. From now on, 1st and 2nd Corps would play a more decisive role, while the 3rd while the 3rd Corps would carry out smaller attacks to allow the rest of the Greek forces to level with it. The 1st Corps was reinforced by the 3rd Division, Just realized how boring this is for somebody that's not watching the video, because this is not Simple History, but this is World War II Epic Battles channel on YouTube. He has fantastic animation of all the different troop formations and stuff. Love that. But it's so boring to just listen to it until you see the troop divisions on a map somewhere. The 1st Corps was reinforced by the 3rd Division, which was held in reserve, and the 2nd Corps was reinforced by the 11th Division of the K Group. There's K Group again. I want to make sure that's in there. Both formations moved into Albania on November 24th, starting a campaign that didn't stop until the end of the year, despite the atrocious weather and heavy snowfall. The Greek advance slowed down on December 22nd after the 1st Corps captured Himara. The 8th Division, together with the Lumbus detachment, had suffered the majority of casualties and were moved back into reserve. After two months, so there's a bit. I'll leave it. After 2 months, bit of, you can actually see it here. This kind of snake skinny looking thing is those are basically resonant frequencies of that syllable that kind of are too loud. After 2 months, the Greeks... I want to see if I can solo it. That. 2 months. So we're going to do this. We're going to reduce the amplitude of that. 2 months. After 2 months, the Greeks had accomplished more than anyone ever expected. OCD. That was an example of my OCD. Anyone ever expected, earning the respect of all of Europe. But now the worsening supply situation combined with bad weather, increasing desertions, and the stiffening Italian resistance made it impossible for the Greeks to continue their advance. The Greek general headquarters decided on December 28th to halt all large-scale offensive operations until the weather improved. This decision took effect on January 6th, which marks the end of the Greek counteroffensive in Albania. Throughout January, the Greeks carried out only small local operations to improve their line. The most significant of those was at the Klissura Pass, where both sides suffered heavy casualties after a series of battles that lasted until mid-February. By early February, the Greek army was down to less than 2 months of artillery ammunition and had shortages in every area of materials, and even food. Meanwhile, the British were urging the Greeks to fight on, promising material support and the deployment of more forces on the Greek mainland. During a meeting of British and Greek military and political leaders in Athens on January 15th. I think I just said leaders. My accent creeped in, I think. During a meeting of British and Greek military and political leaders in Athens. Leaders. Well, I'm going to leave that in there. Hopefully nobody will notice, except everybody watching. They're going to hear this, and they're going to be like, I said leaders. During a meeting of British and Greek military and political leaders in Athens on January 15th. It's close. General Papagos asked for 9 fully equipped divisions and correspondent air support. You know what? Correspondent, I don't think is the right word. I think he should have had corresponding. Divisions and correspondent air support. Yeah, I think you can use correspondent there, but corresponding is, I think, the better word. Prime Minister Metaxas proposed a joint offensive in the Balkans using the gained territories in Albania as a base of operations. The British rejected the plan because it would endanger their operations in North Africa and responded that all they could offer immediately was a force of less than a division's strength. The Greeks feared that such a small force would only encourage... Sounds okay to you? Yeah, I bet, right? Any word that I say is going to sound... Pickle. That's going to sound okay. But if I do it in my... I need a glass of water over here for the leaders. I got to go to dinner with my mother and my father. I don't think I can get away with that. I don't think. The Greeks feared that such a small force would only encourage the Germans to attack. Metaxas, in particular, realized that British support was a double-edged sword. When the Germans decided to intervene on November 4th, 1940, that was 4 days after the first British troops had arrived on the island of Crete. The need to transfer troops... Get rid of that breath. The need to transfer troops back to the Metaxas line for the forthcoming German invasion forced Papagos to launch in February one final push to capture Vlora as quickly as possible. Okay. Capture Vlora as quickly as possible. This desperate... Bit of a snap in there. Possible. This desperate attack failed without significant gains for the Greeks. Now the initiative passed again. Now the initiative passed again. Now the initiative passed again to the Italians. Again to the Italians, who were building up their forces for one more offensive on the center of the front before the start of the German invasion. And that's it. So now we have it's only really one step. This is a final track. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this as an FX track. I just use FX as my prefix or my affix to indicate to me that I have a final track with this. And I got too many people, too many folders, too many damn folders. All right, so that's my FX track, which is just my final track, or close to final. My final track actually has nothing. Let's see. So we are going to do one last thing, which is match loudness. Since I know this is being broadcast on YouTube, I do the same process where I do a target loudness units of -14 with a maximum amplitude of -1 dB. And you'll see the whole track nice and loud, but with a little bit of headroom. And that's the only reason I do that is because the producer is okay with it being that loud. So, and then the last listen. I'm not even going to bother everybody with the last listen. After the successful outcome of the Greek defense during the first 12 days of the war, the Greek general headquarters decided to take the initiative and start a general counteroffensive. The Third Corps had already submitted plans for a counteroffensive on November 6th. The commander-in-chief, General Papagos, thought that the plans were too ambitious for the moment and postponed the offensive for November 14th. The Italian forces had been reorganized into two armies. The 9th Army formed out of the 26th Corps, with 4 infantry divisions and 2 Alpine divisions, and the 11th Army formed out of the 25th Corps, with 3 infantry divisions, 1 armored division, and the remnants of the cavalry division. I have a rogue eyebrow hair. The Greek order of battle consisted of the 1st Corps on the coastal sector, and the Western Macedonia Army section with the 2nd Corps in the Pindus sector, and the 3rd Corps in Western Macedonia. The main objective for the 3rd Corps was at Korcha. Capture of this town and the plateau would give the Greeks swift access to the interior of Albania, and potentially the chance to encircle any Italian units on the left flank of the 3rd Corps. 1st and 2nd Corps would push forward to evict the Italian forces from Greek territory. Strategically speaking, the Greeks needed a decisive victory that would compel Italy to negotiate a ceasefire or truce. On November 14th, the 3rd Corps attacked with the 9th, 10th, and 15th Divisions. The Italians were taken by surprise because the attack was not preceded by an artillery barrage. Pluck it? You want me to pluck it?
On November 16th, the Greeks had breached the Italian line
Yeah, it's right there. I got a long
many
one.
of the small villages in the mountains. On November 17th, the 3rd Corps was reinforced by the 13th Division, which was ordered to attack the next day between the 9th and the 15th Division.
Chris, why do your voiceovers sound terrible tonight? It's because I was sitting there trying to pluck a eyebrow hair. Oh, wait, I got him. No, I missed him.
Divisions. The attack of the 13th Division was the only one that failed during the Greek counteroffensive.
I can't. I need some kind of
chosen
makeup
regiment of the
person.
division was waiting for the signal to attack under cover of darkness and heavy rain.
Look at that!
It was
Look at that guy.
ordered to relocate.
He's a big
and
one.
change the
Getting old.
direction of the attack.
Unwieldy
The
eyebrows.
regiment accidentally made contact with the enemy. 2 of its battalions got pinned down by machine gun fire, while the other 2 battalions were attacked by Italian bombers and then retreated. The commander of the 13th Division was fired on the spot, and the arrival of the 11th Division on November 19th...
I'm done listening. I am done listening to all that. All right. I'm going to save this up as a final file, and then we're gonna end the stream. Solitude, you're probably all sad, I know. But that was... How long have I been streaming? I don't even know. 2 hours? Hour and a half? Hour and a half. That's a good stream. So this is going to be part 2, WAV file, and an MP3. Convert that off. And I'm going to call this... Oops. Greco-Italian War, part 2. Artist. Am I an artist? Chris Kane? And this is album World War II Epic Battles. And that's just the channel I like to put on there. And I'm actually going to put a picture of my little logo. So the album art technically is my little Vocal Forge logo. And that's it. I'm going to get rid of the time. I don't like anybody knowing exactly what time I record my stuff. Gotta have some mystery. And that's it. Yeah, thanks for hanging out. I'm trying to do a few more of these. I miss streaming just for fun. It's fun to let people in on some of the process, but I can't stream too much of it because nobody wants their stuff streamed out. But I want to do a few more streams on, say, Sunday evenings. I think it's a good time because I could care less about football and none of the football people will be watching. But yeah, guys, thanks for hanging out. We're going to end the stream here. I'll probably have another stream, I would say this week. There's a bunch of crap that I'm trying to do within the next few days. And I want to just try to make a public record of it so I can stream certain things. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. And I will see you guys later.